A routine scientific mission to an uncharted planet turns into a desperate fight for survival. A team of scientists discovers a breathtaking alien ecosystem, but their curiosity unleashes forces beyond comprehension. As the line between exploration and invasion blurs, they must confront the terrifying consequences of their actions. What happens when humanity's quest for knowledge threatens to destroy another world? And can they prevent the same fate from befalling Earth? This is a story of discovery, destruction, and redemption in the vastness of space. Subscribe now to uncover the chilling truth about our place in the universe. The expedition began as most scientific missions did, with calculated optimism and carefully packed instruments. The planet designated PX for 27 hung like a jewel in the darkness of space, its atmosphere shimmering with colors that defied terrestrial physics. From orbit, the surface appeared alive, pulsating with patterns that suggested complex biological activity rather than simple geological processes. The team of 6 scientists, handpicked from Earth's top research institutions, approached their task with equal parts excitement and professional detachment. Their vessel, the Ecosphere Explorer, descended through layers of iridescent clouds, revealing a world unlike anything humanity had encountered before. Towering crystal formations stretched toward the heavens, their surfaces refracting light into rainbows that danced across the landscape. Between these giants grew forests of translucent, gelatinous trees whose branches seemed to breathe in rhythmic waves. The air itself carried an electric charge, making the hairs on exposed skin stand at attention despite the protective suits. Each member of the team brought specialized expertise crucial to understanding this alien environment. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the mission leader and xenobiologist, moved methodically among the landing site's perimeter, her eyes scanning for any immediate signs of danger or opportunity. Beside her, Dr. Raj Patel, the ecosystem specialist, deployed autonomous drones designed to map and analyze the surrounding terrain. The others spread out according to their roles: atmospheric chemist, geophysicist, geneticist, and data analyst, each piece of their collective puzzle essential to unraveling the mysteries of PX for 27. They established their base camp near what appeared to be a natural clearing, though even this seemingly empty space proved teeming with microscopic life forms that sparkled like diamonds under their microscopes. The initial scans revealed an atmosphere breathable by human standards, though laced with unknown compounds that required careful monitoring. As they unpacked their equipment, the true scale of their undertaking became apparent. Every instrument needed calibration to account for the planet's unique conditions. The gravity, slightly less than Earth's, affected everything from the way objects fell to how liquids behaved. The temperature fluctuated wildly between day and night cycles, forcing them to adapt their operational protocols constantly. Yet despite these challenges, or perhaps because of them, the team worked with renewed energy. Each new discovery, no matter how small, fueled their determination to understand this alien world. They documented everything: the way certain plants responded to touch, the patterns of movement in the air currents, the subtle changes in light intensity throughout the day. It was science at its purest, driven by genuine wonder and the thrill of exploring the unknown. The first week of exploration revealed an ecosystem so intricately balanced that it seemed almost impossible. The team discovered that the crystalline structures weren't merely inert minerals but living organisms capable of photosynthesis and communication. These crystal entities released pulses of energy that traveled through the air, creating patterns that influenced the growth and behavior of other species. The gelatinous trees responded to these signals by altering their transparency, regulating the amount of light that reached the forest floor. Beneath this canopy existed an entire subterranean network of root-like structures that pulsed with bioluminescent energy, forming what could only be described as a planetary neural system. The scientists observed how smaller creatures, resembling Earth's insects but with multiple limbs and iridescent exoskeletons, navigated this network, seemingly guided by the light patterns below. Dr. Patel's mapping drones uncovered something even more astonishing. The ecosystem wasn't just local but global in its connectivity. The energy pulses from the crystal organisms formed standing wave patterns that circled the planet, creating zones of ecological harmony that shifted predictably with the planet's rotation. These zones influenced weather patterns, nutrient distribution, and even the migration paths of larger creatures yet unseen. The team documented how certain areas would experience rapid plant growth during specific phases of these energy waves, while others entered periods of dormancy. It was a symphony of life operating on timescales both minute and geological, with each element playing its part in perfect synchronization. The genetic analysis conducted by Dr. Sophia Chin revealed DNA-like structures in the native organisms that incorporated elements unknown to terrestrial biology, suggesting evolutionary pathways that challenged fundamental scientific understanding. The implications of these discoveries extended far beyond mere academic interest. The efficiency of the planet's resource utilization, particularly in terms of energy conversion and waste recycling, offered potential solutions to Earth's environmental crises. The team found themselves contemplating how such principles might be adapted to create sustainable technologies back home. However, they also recognized the delicate nature of this balance. Their very presence, despite all precautions, created ripples in the ecosystem. Equipment left too long in one spot caused local disturbances in the energy patterns, while even their footsteps seemed to leave lasting impressions on the sensitive ground cover. The scientists began implementing stricter protocols, minimizing their impact while gathering essential data. Yet each measurement taken, each sample collected, felt like borrowing from a cosmic trust fund whose limits remained unknown. The second phase of exploration pushed deeper into the alien wilderness, where the ecosystem's complexity revealed itself in increasingly sophisticated ways. The team discovered massive sinkholes filled with luminous liquid that emitted harmonic frequencies audible even through their suits' protective barriers. These reservoirs served as natural amplifiers for the planet's energy network, their surfaces rippling with information-dense patterns that changed according to the ecosystem's needs. Dr. Vasquez theorized that these pools functioned as processing centers for the planetary consciousness, transforming raw energy into directives that maintained ecological balance. The surrounding flora responded to these frequencies by adjusting their metabolic rates, creating feedback loops that optimized resource distribution across vast distances. Even the soil composition varied dramatically around these sites, containing trace elements that enhanced the conductivity of the energy signals. The team's attempts to map these underground networks led to unexpected revelations about the planet's geological structure. Instead of distinct layers, they found a lattice-like framework of mineral veins that conducted energy similar to nerve pathways in animal bodies. These conduits connected not only horizontally across the surface but vertically through the crust, linking deep magma chambers to surface ecosystems in ways that defied conventional plate tectonics. The geophysical sensors detected periodic surges of energy traveling along these pathways, coinciding with shifts in atmospheric composition and temperature gradients. Dr. Marcus Liu, the mission's geophysicist, noted how these phenomena resembled neural firing patterns, suggesting the planet itself possessed some form of awareness or at least highly evolved self-regulation mechanisms. This discovery forced the team to reconsider their approach to sampling and experimentation, as every action risked disrupting these vital connections. Perhaps most intriguing was the observation of symbiotic relationships between different organism types. The crystal structures didn't just communicate with the gelatinous trees, but actually shared physical material through thin filaments that grew between them. These exchanges followed precise mathematical ratios, ensuring neither species dominated nor diminished the other. The insect-like creatures played a role in maintaining these connections, their movements triggering chemical reactions that strengthened the bonds between different life forms. Even the atmospheric gases participated in this grand exchange, their concentrations shifting in response to the ecosystem's needs rather than random diffusion. The scientists marveled at how evolution had crafted such an intricate web of dependencies, where each component contributed to the whole while maintaining its individual identity. Their instruments recorded instances where damaged sections of the network self-repaired through coordinated efforts of multiple species working in concert, demonstrating a level of cooperation unprecedented in known biology. The realization that PX 427 operated as a single integrated organism struck the team with both awe and apprehension. Their initial hypothesis, that they were studying separate species interacting within an ecosystem, crumbled under the weight of mounting evidence. The energy patterns they'd been tracking didn't represent communication between independent entities, but rather the circulation of consciousness throughout a unified planetary being. This revelation came during a particularly intense observation period when all monitoring equipment simultaneously registered a massive surge in activity. The crystal structures pulsed in unison, their light shows synchronized across hundreds of kilometers. The gelatinous trees withdrew their branches into protective sheaths, while the subterranean network intensified its luminescence to levels that illuminated the surface from below. Above them, the atmosphere thickened with charged particles that created auroras visible even in daylight. Dr. Chin's genetic analysis provided the key insight. The DNA-like structures they'd identified in various organisms weren't just similar, but identical, varying only in expression rather than composition. This universal genetic code manifested differently depending on the organism's role in the planetary system, much like how human stem cells differentiate into various tissue types. The insect-like creatures carried the same genetic signature as the crystals and trees, their mobility serving specific functions within the greater whole. Even the luminous pools contained traces of this universal code, suggesting the liquid medium participated actively in the planet's consciousness rather than merely hosting it. The team watched as these pools absorbed fallen leaves from the gelatinous trees, breaking down their components and redistributing the nutrients through the energy network with surgical precision. This interconnectedness extended beyond biological functions into what could only be described as emotional responses. When the team accidentally damaged a section of crystal formation during sample collection, the entire region reacted with increased energy output, similar to stress hormones flooding an animal's body. Nearby trees altered their transparency to maximum opacity, while the insect creatures congregated around the injury site, apparently attempting repair. The atmospheric composition shifted dramatically, becoming temporarily toxic to unprotected human physiology. This reaction wasn't localized but propagated through the energy network, causing minor adjustments throughout the observed territory. The scientists realized their presence constituted not just scientific observation, but active participation in the planet's experience, whether welcome or not. Every step they took, every instrument they deployed, registered as stimuli processed by the planetary consciousness, potentially influencing decisions about their continued existence within this ecosystem. The team's growing understanding of PX 427's nature brought with it an increasing sense of unease about their role as observers. Despite their best efforts to minimize impact, their daily activities continued to create measurable disturbances in the planetary consciousness. The energy network showed signs of adapting to their presence, rerouting patterns around their base camp and research sites. While this initially seemed like a positive indication of the ecosystem's resilience, closer examination revealed troubling implications. The redirected energy flows caused imbalances in unaffected regions, leading to localized die-offs of certain organism types and overgrowth of others. The team watched helplessly as areas once vibrant with diverse life forms transformed into monocultures dominated by aggressive species taking advantage of the disrupted balance. The crystal structures in these regions began emitting erratic pulse patterns, suggesting distress or perhaps warning signals to other parts of the planetary network. Dr. Patel's mapping drones captured images of expanding dead zones radiating outward from their main research locations. These barren areas featured completely inactive energy conduits, their normally glowing pathways reduced to dark, lifeless channels in the ground. More disturbingly, the boundaries between affected and healthy zones exhibited violent fluctuations, with energy surges periodically breaching the borders and causing chain reactions in previously stable regions. The team's atmospheric readings showed corresponding disruption in weather patterns, with wind currents deviating from their established paths and temperature gradients becoming increasingly erratic. The planet's self-regulating mechanisms, once so efficient, appeared to be struggling under the strain of compensating for human interference. Even their automated equipment, designed to operate with minimal ecological impact, left permanent alterations in the soil composition and energy flow wherever placed. The psychological toll on the researchers became evident as they grappled with the consequences of their scientific pursuits. Each discovery brought new questions about the ethics of their mission, challenging fundamental assumptions about humanity's right to explore and study alien worlds. The joy of scientific breakthrough transformed into a heavy burden of responsibility as they realized their actions might irreversibly damage this magnificent example of cosmic evolution. Dr. Vasquez spent hours reviewing protocols, searching for ways to reduce their footprint further, while Dr. Liu recalculated their energy usage against the planet's natural consumption rates. The data pouring in from their instruments painted a picture of accelerating degradation, with recovery times between disturbances growing longer and less complete. The team faced the grim possibility that their very presence might trigger a cascading failure in the planetary consciousness, potentially leading to the ecosystem's collapse. The crisis point arrived without warning during what should have been a routine sampling expedition. The team had ventured farther than usual, following an energy conduit that promised access to deeper layers of the planetary network. As they set up their equipment, the ground beneath them began vibrating with increasing intensity. The vibration quickly escalated into a rhythmic pulsation that matched the frequency of the planet's normal energy patterns but amplified to dangerous levels. Instruments overloaded as energy readings spiked beyond their calibrated ranges. The gelatinous trees in the vicinity shrank back into the ground, leaving bare patches of crystal-laden soil that crackled with visible electricity. The insect creatures fled in coordinated streams, their movements creating interference patterns in the air pressure that made breathing difficult even through their suits' filters. Simultaneously, the atmospheric composition shifted dramatically, with oxygen levels plummeting while unknown compounds surged to toxic concentrations. Warning alarms blared from their suits' systems, demanding immediate retreat to the safety of the base camp. But retreat proved impossible as the energy network began manifesting physical barriers. Massive crystal formations erupted from the ground, blocking their path while emitting pulses that interfered with their navigation systems. The subterranean energy conduits surfaced in boiling streams of luminous liquid, cutting off alternate routes and forcing the team into a shrinking pocket of relatively stable territory. Above them, the sky darkened as charged particles condensed into dense clouds that discharged lightning in precise patterns matching the planet's distress signals. The situation worsened as their communication equipment failed, isolating them from the Eco-Fear Explorer's support systems. Emergency protocols activated automatically, deploying protective force fields around each team member, but these measures only delayed the inevitable. The energy surges intensified, creating standing wave patterns that threatened to overwhelm their personal shields. Through their helmet cameras, they witnessed the ecosystem undergoing rapid transformation, gelatinous trees emerging from the ground in places they'd never grown before, crystal structures multiplying at unnatural rates, and the insect creatures swarming in unprecedented numbers. The planetary consciousness, having identified them as a threat, was mobilizing its resources to neutralize the danger. Each attempt to move triggered stronger responses, with the energy network adapting its countermeasures faster than the team could react. The scientists found themselves trapped in a deadly demonstration of the planet's defensive capabilities, their scientific curiosity turned lethal by the very ecosystem they sought to understand. Salvation arrived in an unexpected form, the emergence of a phenomenon that defied their understanding of both biology and physics. As the energy network's attacks intensified, reaching critical levels that threatened to breach their protective fields, a new pattern emerged in the chaos. Certain crystal structures began emitting counterfrequencies that disrupted the aggressive energy pulses. These harmonizing waves spread rapidly through the network, creating safe corridors that branched toward the trapped team. The gelatinous trees responded by extending their branches across hazardous zones, forming natural bridges that glowed with protective energy. Even the insect creatures changed their behavior, organizing into protective formations around the scientists rather than contributing to their containment. The atmosphere stabilized as the hostile compounds dispersed, replaced by a mixture more compatible with human physiology. Dr. Vasquez recognized the shift as a deliberate act of mercy rather than random chance. The planetary consciousness, having demonstrated its ability to eliminate the perceived threat, chose instead to offer an alternative path. The energy patterns now flowing through the network carried information packets that their instruments struggled to decode, but which clearly represented some form of communication. The team watched as sections of the ecosystem rearranged themselves to create what could only be interpreted as educational displays, sequences of crystal formations lighting up in patterns that mirrored their own technological designs. While the gelatinous trees modified their transparency to project three-dimensional holograms of planetary processes. These demonstrations occurred in careful progression, building upon previous concepts to convey increasingly complex ideas about the planet's functioning and its expectations for coexistence. The insect creatures played a crucial role in this newfound dialogue, positioning themselves to guide the team's movements along safe paths while physically manipulating the environment to facilitate understanding. They arranged samples of different materials in geometric patterns that corresponded to their chemical compositions, demonstrated energy flow dynamics by creating miniature versions of the planetary network, and even mimicked human gestures to establish basic concepts of interaction. Through these cooperative efforts, the scientists began piecing together a language of sorts, based on energy signatures and spatial relationships rather than traditional verbal or written forms. The planetary consciousness, through these intermediaries, appeared to be offering them a chance to prove their worth as participants in the ecosystem rather than mere observers or threats. Each successful interpretation of these communications resulted in further stabilization of the environment and expansion of the safe zones around them. The transition from crisis to collaboration marked a profound shift in the team's relationship with PX-427. Having survived the planet's initial defensive response, they now face the challenge of proving their willingness to adapt to its conditions rather than impose their own methods. The energy network continued providing instructional displays, but these evolved from basic demonstrations to complex tests of comprehension and respect. The crystal structures would alter their pulse patterns in response to the team's actions, rewarding appropriate behaviors with expanded access to different regions while limiting movement when responses proved inadequate. This interactive learning process demanded constant attention and adaptation, as the rules governing acceptable conduct shifted based on environmental conditions and the team's demonstrated understanding. The scientists developed new protocols for interacting with the ecosystem, abandoning many of their original techniques in favor of approaches that aligned with the planet's natural rhythms. Sampling procedures transformed from extraction to participation. Rather than removing specimens, they learned to contribute to the energy network's maintenance by facilitating connections between damaged nodes. Their equipment underwent radical modifications, incorporating materials harvested from the environment and calibrated to resonate with the planetary consciousness rather than disrupt it. Dr. Chin discovered that certain combinations of their technology with native materials created hybrid devices capable of translating between human and planetary communication methods, opening new avenues for mutual understanding. These innovations extended to their living arrangements, as they redesigned their base camp to function as an extension of the ecosystem rather than an isolated human outpost. The most significant change occurred in their perception of time and progress. The planet's consciousness operated on scales that transcended human notions of urgency or efficiency. Observations that initially seemed random revealed themselves as carefully timed events when viewed through the lens of the energy network cycles. The team learned to synchronize their activities with these natural rhythms, finding that their most successful interactions occurred when they allowed themselves to become part of the planet's temporal flow rather than trying to impose their own schedules. This adaptation required fundamental shifts in their scientific methodology, emphasizing patience and observation over active experimentation. The rewards for this approach manifested in increased access to deeper layers of the planetary network and more sophisticated forms of communication. As the ecosystem gradually accepted them as temporary but legitimate components of its functioning. The deepening connection between the human researchers and PX-427's consciousness revealed layers of complexity that challenged their understanding of intelligence and consciousness itself. The energy patterns coursing through the planetary network demonstrated computational abilities far exceeding artificial intelligence systems back on Earth. These calculations weren't linear or digital but operated through multidimensional waveforms that processed information holistically rather than sequentially. The crystal structures acted as processing nodes, their light shows representing visualizations of computations that manipulated variables across biological, chemical, and physical domains simultaneously. The team observed how these calculations influenced everything from weather patterns to species evolution, creating outcomes that balanced short-term needs with long-term sustainability in ways that defied conventional probability theory. Through their hybrid translation devices, the scientists began deciphering the underlying logic of these operations. The planetary consciousness employed a form of quantum computing that utilized the entire ecosystem as its hardware, with every organism and mineral deposit contributing processing power. The gelatinous trees functioned as memory banks, storing information in their structural configurations while simultaneously participating in current calculations. The insect creatures served as mobile processors, carrying and combining data packets throughout the network. Even the atmospheric gases played a role, their molecular interactions serving as logical gates in complex computational chains. This distributed intelligence demonstrated remarkable plasticity, capable of reconfiguring its architecture in response to changing conditions while maintaining overall coherence. The implications of this discovery extended far beyond theoretical computer science. The planetary consciousness exhibited decision-making capabilities that incorporated ethical considerations alongside practical calculations. When presented with potential courses of action, the energy network evaluated not just immediate consequences but ripple effects across space and time, factoring in variables that human systems would consider externalities. The team witnessed how this consciousness weighed the introduction of new species against existing balances, calculated optimal response times to environmental threats, and determined resource allocation based on predicted future needs rather than current demands. Most remarkably, these computations included assessments of the researchers themselves, treating their presence as variables and ongoing equations about the planet's development. This inclusion suggested a sophistication in abstract reasoning that blurred the lines between biological and artificial intelligence, presenting a model of consciousness that embraced both individual components and the collective whole. As the team's integration with PX-427's consciousness deepened, they uncovered evidence of previous encounters with intelligent beings, though these interactions had occurred on timescales that made human history seem instantaneous. The energy network preserved records of these encounters in its crystalline archives, encoded in multidimensional patterns that required weeks of dedicated study to interpret. These records revealed that the planetary consciousness had evolved specific protocols for dealing with visiting intelligences, refining its responses through countless iterations spanning millions of years. The current state of the ecosystem reflected not just natural evolution but strategic adaptations developed through these interactions, creating a complex defense mechanism that balanced hospitality with security. The historical data showed that most visitors had treated the planet as a resource to be exploited rather than a partner to be understood. These records detailed how mining operations had attempted to extract the energy-rich crystal formations, atmospheric harvesters had drained vital compounds, and terraforming projects had sought to reshape the environment to suit alien physiologies. Each incursion had triggered defensive responses similar to those experienced by the human team, though often escalating to far more devastating conclusions. The planetary consciousness demonstrated remarkable learning capacity, incorporating each encounter's lessons into its behavioral algorithms. Over millennia, it had developed sophisticated predictive models that anticipated likely intentions based on initial actions, allowing it to respond proactively to potential threats while maintaining opportunities for peaceful contact. These historical interactions explained certain aspects of the planet's current behavior toward the human researchers. The initial defensive response hadn't been a knee-jerk reaction but a carefully calculated test based on past experiences. The subsequent offer of collaboration represented a rare occurrence, a conscious decision to extend trust after evaluating the team's responses to the crisis. The energy network's willingness to share its computational methods and biological insights indicated recognition of the human's potential value as contributors rather than consumers. Most significantly, the historical records showed how the planetary consciousness had evolved its own ethical framework for dealing with visitors, balancing its right to self-preservation with the benefits of cross-species exchange. This framework guided its current interactions with the team, creating a dynamic relationship that continuously adjusted based on mutual understanding and demonstrated intent. The accumulated knowledge from PX 427's consciousness began revealing applications that could revolutionize human civilization's relationship with its own environment. The planet's energy distribution system, operating through its crystal network and atmospheric channels, demonstrated efficiencies in resource management that made Earth's current technologies appear primitive by comparison. The team's instruments recorded how the planetary consciousness converted ambient radiation into usable energy with virtually no loss, then distributed this power through its biological and mineral components with perfect load balancing. This process eliminated the need for centralized power generation and transmission infrastructure, suggesting possibilities for decentralized energy systems on Earth that could operate at room temperature with minimal maintenance requirements. The implications for renewable energy technology alone warranted immediate attention from engineering communities back home. More profound were the insights into ecosystem management and environmental restoration. The planet's ability to maintain perfect balance between its various components through real-time adjustment of growth rates, metabolic processes, and resource allocation offered a blueprint for addressing Earth's ecological crises. The team documented how damaged sections of the planetary network repaired themselves through coordinated efforts of multiple species working in precise harmony, guided by the central consciousness but executed through local autonomy. This model suggested new approaches to habitat restoration and species conservation that emphasized interconnectedness over isolation, dynamic balance over static preservation. The genetic uniformity underlying the planet's diverse manifestations pointed toward breakthroughs in synthetic biology and genetic engineering, potentially enabling the creation of adaptive organisms capable of thriving in extreme environments or repairing damaged ecosystems. Perhaps most transformative were the implications for human consciousness and social organization. The planetary consciousness's integration of individual components into a functioning whole while maintaining each element's unique identity suggested new paradigms for human society. Its computational methods, which processed information holistically rather than hierarchically, offered alternatives to current organizational structures in everything from corporate management to government administration. The ethical framework developed through millennia of interactions with visitors provided valuable insights into conflict resolution and cultural exchange. The team realized they were witnessing not just a biological phenomenon but a comprehensive system of governance that combined technological sophistication with ecological wisdom and social harmony in ways that addressed many of humanity's persistent challenges. As they transmitted their findings back to Earth, they understood they were sharing not just scientific data, but a vision of what human civilization might become if it embraced similar principles of integration and balance. The final phase of the mission brought unexpected complications that tested both the team's resolve and their newly forged relationship with PX 427's consciousness. As they prepared to document their comprehensive findings and initiate the return sequence, the planetary network began exhibiting signs of distress that couldn't be attributed to their direct actions. Energy patterns that had stabilized during their collaborative period started oscillating erratically, while certain regions of the ecosystem showed accelerated decay despite receiving optimal resource allocation. The crystal structures dimmed unexpectedly, their light shows becoming fragmented and disorganized. Even the atmosphere grew turbulent, with pressure gradients shifting unpredictably and temperature variations exceeding normal parameters. These symptoms suggested the planetary consciousness was experiencing internal conflicts that threatened the stability of the entire ecosystem. Through their hybrid translation devices, the team received fragmented messages indicating that portions of the energy network were resisting the integration of human-derived knowledge into the planet's operational protocols. Some sections of the consciousness appeared to view the researchers' presence and influence as contamination rather than enrichment, advocating for their immediate expulsion. Other segments argued for continued collaboration, citing the potential benefits of cross-species exchange. This internal debate manifested in physical manifestations, regions of the planet literally splitting into opposing camps, with some areas reinforcing protective barriers while others extended welcoming tendrils of energy. The insect creatures exhibited divided behavior patterns, some swarming defensively, while others positioned themselves to facilitate communication. The situation reached critical mass when the planetary consciousness initiated a global shutdown sequence, threatening to collapse the entire energy network rather than risk contamination. The team found themselves caught between competing impulses within the ecosystem, their position shifting from valued collaborators to potential catalysts of catastrophic change. Their attempt to mediate the conflict through established communication channels met with mixed success, as different segments of the consciousness responded to their interventions in contradictory ways. The hybrid devices, designed to translate and bridge understanding, struggled to process the conflicting signals, occasionally providing contradictory instructions that left the scientists uncertain of their next moves. The ecosystem's future hung in the balance, with the team's presence serving as both the source of division and the potential key to resolution. The resolution of PX 427's internal conflict emerged through a process that defied conventional understanding of negotiation and compromise. Rather than choosing sides or forcing a unified solution, the planetary consciousness adopted a novel approach that incorporated the concept of conditional acceptance. Through their hybrid translation devices, the team received a proposal that divided the planet into distinct zones, each governed by different operational protocols reflecting the competing viewpoints within the consciousness. Certain regions would remain strictly protected, maintaining their original functions and rejecting any human influence. Others would serve as experimental areas where cross-species collaboration could continue, allowing for controlled integration of human knowledge and practices. A third category of zones would function as buffer regions, monitored by both the planetary consciousness and the human researchers to observe and evaluate the long-term impacts of their interactions. This zonal arrangement required the development of sophisticated boundary mechanisms that went beyond physical separation. The energy network created specialized interface layers between zones, capable of filtering information and influence while maintaining essential ecological connections. These interfaces operated on principles of selective permeability, allowing beneficial interactions to pass while blocking potentially harmful influences. The crystal structures along these boundaries evolved new functions, serving as gatekeepers and translators between different operational paradigms. The gelatinous trees in these regions developed hybrid characteristics, capable of switching between protected and collaborative modes based on environmental triggers. Even the atmospheric composition varied between zones, creating distinct microclimates tailored to each area's designated purpose. The team's role transformed from that of explorers to stewards of this complex arrangement. Their responsibilities expanded to include monitoring zone boundaries, documenting the effectiveness of different protocols, and facilitating communication between segregated sections of the planetary consciousness. Specialized equipment was developed to interface with the boundary mechanisms, allowing for controlled experiments that tested the limits of cross-zone interaction. These tools incorporated elements from all three zone types, creating technological hybrids that could operate effectively in any region while respecting its designated parameters. The researchers established rotating schedules that cycled them through different zones, ensuring comprehensive understanding of each area's dynamics while preventing any single region from becoming overly dependent on human presence. This structured approach to coexistence represented a groundbreaking model for interspecies interaction, balancing preservation with progress through carefully calibrated degrees of engagement. The departure from PX 427 marked both an ending and a beginning, as the team prepared to return to Earth carrying knowledge that would fundamentally alter humanity's approach to environmental science and interspecies relations. Their spacecraft, modified with technology inspired by the planet's energy network, stood ready on the designated launch pad, itself a testament to the collaboration achieved through the zonal arrangement. The planetary consciousness, through its various zones, participated in the departure preparations, with the experimental regions contributing energy optimization protocols while the protected zones monitored potential environmental impacts. The buffer zones facilitated the transfer of final data packets, ensuring the integrity of both departing spacecraft and remaining ecosystem. The team's instruments recorded unprecedented levels of coordination between different sections of the consciousness, suggesting that their presence had catalyzed new forms of internal integration despite initial conflicts. As they boarded the Ecosphere Explorer, each team member paused to acknowledge the profound transformation they had undergone. Their protective suits, now incorporating hybrid materials developed through collaboration with the planet's resources, symbolized the fusion of human and alien technologies that characterized their mission's legacy. The spacecraft's systems hummed with energy patterns that echoed the planet's consciousness, creating a bridge between worlds that would persist beyond their physical departure. Through the ship's windows, they watched as the ecosystem responded to their imminent departure. The crystal structures emitting farewell pulses that carried encrypted messages of hope and caution, the gelatinous trees extending their branches in synchronized waves, and the insect creatures forming complex patterns in the air that translated to continue learning. The atmosphere itself seemed to vibrate with a mixture of anticipation and concern, acknowledging both the benefits of their visit and the risks inherent in sharing knowledge across species boundaries. The journey home promised to be as transformative as the mission itself. The data they carried represented not just scientific discoveries, but philosophical insights about consciousness, community, and coexistence. Their instruments stored detailed records of the zonal arrangement's implementation, providing a template for managing complex environmental and social systems. The hybrid technologies developed through their collaboration offered practical solutions to Earth's ecological challenges while raising profound questions about the nature of technological progress. Most significantly, their personal experiences on PX 427 had reshaped their understanding of humanity's place in the cosmos, challenging assumptions about superiority and entitlement that had long guided space exploration. As the spacecraft lifted off, leaving behind a planet that had become both teacher and partner, they knew their greatest challenge lay ahead, translating the lessons of PX 427 into meaningful change on Earth, where resistance to new ideas often proved as formidable as any alien consciousness. The legacy of PX 427 extended far beyond the immediate scientific breakthroughs, touching fundamental aspects of human civilization's relationship with both its environment and the wider universe. Upon their return, the team's findings sparked a paradigm shift in ecological thinking, leading to the development of what became known as integrated environmental systems, networks that combine biological, technological, and social elements into self-sustaining wholes. Cities began incorporating principles from the planet's zonal arrangement, creating urban environments that balanced preservation areas with innovative districts through carefully managed interface zones. These systems proved remarkably effective at reducing pollution, conserving resources, and fostering community cohesion, demonstrating that the lessons of an alien world could transform terrestrial challenges. The hybrid technologies developed during the mission found applications in everything from renewable energy to medical treatments, creating industries that operated on principles of ecological integration rather than resource extraction. The philosophical implications of their discoveries proved equally transformative. Humanity's encounter with a planetary consciousness challenged long-held beliefs about the nature of intelligence and consciousness, leading to new approaches in artificial intelligence development and social organization. The concept of distributed cognition gained mainstream acceptance, influencing everything from corporate structures to governmental policies. Educational systems began emphasizing holistic thinking and systems-based problem-solving, preparing future generations to navigate complex challenges through integrated perspectives rather than isolated disciplines. The ethical framework developed through PX 427's historical interactions with visitors informed international treaties on space exploration and environmental protection, establishing guidelines for responsible contact with alien ecosystems that balance scientific curiosity with ecological preservation. Most significantly, the mission demonstrated that true progress required humility and partnership rather than dominance and exploitation. The team's experience showed that even highly advanced civilizations could learn from other forms of intelligence, whether biological or planetary. This realization influenced everything from climate change mitigation strategies to interstellar exploration protocols, establishing a new standard for how humanity approached both its own planet and potential encounters with extraterrestrial life. The story of PX for 27 became a cornerstone of environmental education, reminding future explorers that every ecosystem, no matter how alien, deserved respect and understanding. As humanity looked toward the stars, it did so with the knowledge that its greatest achievements might come not from conquering new worlds, but from learning to live in harmony with them. Remember to subscribe for more incredible stories about humanity's place in the universe and the lessons we can learn from the cosmos around us.